There was a break in the case. When David received a tip that the missing boy had been meandering around that same park again, he was dispatched immediately and had alerted the boy's family as well. Upon arrival, the parents were already there and were calling out to their son. Instead of a heartfelt family reunion, the boy screamed at them to leave him alone. Confused, his parents asked what was wrong and who was hurting him. Jacob screamed again, but this time a large, solid, metallic-looking cloud formed around him. Frightened, his parents took some steps back and looked to David for help. Seeing no other option, David pulled out his pistol and trained it on the boy. "Hold it. We don't want to hurt you. Just want to talk." That bleak-looking sludge cloud was not happy with him doing that. Jacob yelled, "Attack!" and the cloud turned into a long, solid spear and shot towards David. He dodged and fired a couple of bullets into the cloud, causing it to distort and fade slightly. Seizing the opportunity, David charged forward and tackled Jacob to the ground. The cloud finally dissipated into what appeared to be a weakened state. Backup arrived shortly after, but it wasn't the usual crew of paramedics and officers that David recognized. It was the Foundation. They took the child into custody. The parents and David were instructed to keep their mouths shut about what happened that night. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-204. SCP-204, also known as The Protector, consists of two entities designated as SCP-204-1 and SCP-204-2. 204-1 is described as a techno-organic colony of nano-machines controlled by 204-2, of whom is typically a young child. 204-1 mostly spends its time as a nearly invisible cloud that stays near 204-2. When 204-2 is under threat or commands it, 204-1 will materialize. It will then take on the shape of whatever 204-2 imagines and promptly eliminate the threat. Regardless of what shape or form it takes, 204-1 remains incredibly strong, durable, and most importantly, obedient to 204-2. The one drawback that 204-1 has is that it can be subdued with firearms and other conventional weaponry. As mentioned, instances of 204-2 are young children, typically between the ages of 4 to 14, all of whom share histories of abuse and neglect. 204-1 will stay with 204-2 until either the child dies or turns 14. It has been theorized that 204-1 needs to consume organic flesh in order to stay as powerful as it is. This may be linked to why instances of 204-2 exhibit aggressive behavior and put themselves in grave danger non-stop. It can also be argued that 204-2's aggression is due to the subconscious influence of 204-1, so that it can find prey to consume more easily. SCP-204 was first discovered when a child named Jacob had gone missing in a town. After several weeks, he was presumed dead. Authorities and Jacob's family, however, did not give up the search as they desperately wanted to bring in whoever abducted him. Being a police officer, David Coy was deeply invested in this case. But there were a few things that just didn't sit quite right with him about it. For starters, witnesses who saw the child before he vanished said that there was no one around him at the time. Interestingly enough, the boy was said to be looking up and around him and was speaking to something or someone. After wandering into a local park, the kid was not seen or heard of since. When asked why Jacob was left without supervision in the first place, his parents explained that he had run away from home. As explained in a crudely written letter in crayon, he was going to do what he wanted with his friends. The child snuck out in the middle of the night and vanished. At the same time, a car was found in a residential street, completely torn apart and covered in partially devoured human remains. Similar incidents occurred until the Foundation began to put two and two together. Feeling that these events could be related, the Foundation decided to keep track of the missing child case's progress. It was proven fruitful, as the Foundation was able to follow David's investigation and discover the anomaly that was influencing Jacob. When the agents arrived, David had already subdued the child on the ground. Back at the Foundation, Jacob was contained and interviewed. "Tell me, boy, how do you feel when you killed all those people? Innocent lives that brought you no harm." Does that bring you joy? I need to feel the rush. It feels good and nice, standing in front of traffic, making other people angry. It makes me happy. But why do you need to kill them? Because I can. My friend lets me do so. He smiled and glanced at 204-1 that was being contained in an electronically secured box placed on the table. The following is the documented discussion Site Director Julia Snow had with 05-2 concerning a containment protocol for 204-2. Sir, am I reading this correctly? Yes, it is as you see. 204-1 needs a permanent stock of candidates in case 204-2 perishes or becomes of age. But this is wrong. How could you go so low, sir? I believe you are not so daft, Miss Snow. Here, allow me to run through it with you. All candidates for this protocol will be in the age of below 10. They will also be orphans who will have histories of abuse. They fit the criteria for 204-1 perfectly. What is the issue here? You know damn well what the problem here is. What if we can't find those perfect candidates? Julia said as she threw the files at 05-2's face angrily. There will always be candidates, Miss Snow. If we can't find them on the streets, then we'll find them on some of the less desirable channels. Human traffickers, for example. Human traffickers? Are you hearing yourself? Since when did the Foundation associate themselves with such heinous groups? We'll be giving these unfortunate young souls a life and purpose, you see. They'll be given the chance to work for the agency that's responsible for the containment of anomalies that are harmful against mankind. Otherwise, they would probably be tossed into the hands of some bad people, Miss Snow. Very, very bad people. We just have to be the lesser evil. What about those without histories of abuse? Here, you plan to place these children with no histories of abuse into the care of D-class personnel? Personnel who have long histories of crime and violence, just so they can be nurtured into becoming the perfect candidate? You're insane. Am I really? Do I need to remind you about the last time 204-1 rampaged when we had no candidates? It slaughtered anything it could find within 10 miles until it latched onto a poor little Jacob. Regardless, you're toying with innocent lives here. Gosh, why can't we just terminate 204-1 and forget about all these talks about perfect candidates or whatever? You're not seeing the bigger picture, Miss Snow. If we can make this anomaly work for us, imagine the things we can achieve. You've seen how powerful these kids can be when utilizing these nano-machines. Are you talking about weaponizing these children? We've seen these nano-machines in action, and they've brought nothing but destruction. You truly are insane. No, I'm practical. You're just simply too idealistic, Miss Snow. Now, will you continue to refuse to enact this containment protocol? Julia only slumped weakly into her chair and shook her head no. Great. I'm so happy we came to an understanding. You are free to go. Following this conversation, Containment Protocol 05-2, Babysitter, was greenlit to be used should there ever be a shortage of candidates for 204-1. As for Site Director Julia Snow, she tendered her resignation and has since left the Foundation. Prior to leaving, she was amnestized due to her being labeled as a liability by 05-2. Perhaps she'd be rather grateful for this, as she didn't want to know if that dreaded protocol would ever come to pass. Seconds before she lost her memory, 05-2 said that he'd be watching her for the greater good. When I was 9 years old, I would often hear odd noises coming from either my closet door or beneath my bed. My parents explained that the noises were nothing more than the house groaning. I bought into it after a while and soon didn't think much of the noises, that is, until one particular night. I was having trouble falling asleep and was cuddling my little stuffed bear when I heard a scratching sound against the inside of my closet. I rolled my eyes before trying to fall asleep again. That is, until the door handle began to slowly turn and the door started to open. Cowering and shaking, I saw a long and disjointed, black, monstrous arm release the door handle. Stepping out of the closet was a black, demonic-looking creature with goblin-like features. In fear, I watched it get low to the ground and proceed to stalk me, licking its lips and pointing sharp claws at me. Before it could pounce upon me, my teddy bear Caesar jumped from my arms and entered a combat stance. 2 orbs of light then appeared above its head that transformed into a wooden sword and shield respectively. The monster let out a hateful cry before engaging in combat with Caesar. The creature was swift and strong, but Caesar was smart and tactful. He countered with sword slashes and finally weakened the creature to the point he could slice its head off. I watched as the monster's head rolled away from its body before disintegrating into a dark mist. Caesar's weapons then vanished as he scurried back to my bed, patted me on the head, and promptly became inanimate again. Utterly baffled by the experience, I went to sleep without questioning what had happened. I never saw Caesar come back to life again, or another monster for that matter. I know I wasn't dreaming of what I saw. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-5852. SCP-5852, also known as Where Best Friends Are Made, are hostile entities of varying appearance that are consistently described as scary, terrifying, and monsters by young children. Instances of 6852 have been identified by the Foundation as entities hostile to young children. Regardless of their appearance, all instances tend to have long teeth, claws, or other sharpened appendages. These creatures typically live in or manifest under beds and within closets, most often in the room of the child. During the day, they tend to be inactive, instead opting to kill their prey during nighttime. While instances of 6852 are perfectly capable of killing children with relative ease, they relish in playfully hunting them. This is hypothesized to be a form of entertainment for 6852 instances, scaring the children greatly before pouncing on them. Oddly enough, if the child who is being hunted hides under their blanket, 6852 will not harm them. This is due to their preference of seeing their prey before killing them. In addition to their sharpened appendages, 6852 instances are graced with two abnormal properties that aid them in their hunts. The first is that they can produce anti-memetic camouflage, rendering them invisible to anyone but young children. Second, their bodies are able to silence noises within any localized area, such as a child's bedroom. In order to combat the steadily rising number of attacks by instances of 6852, the Foundation created Procedure 6852-Bear. This procedure is carried out through the Build-A-Bear Workshop Corporation. Yes, the company was created specifically for this purpose. As for the procedure itself, it seeks to make artificial copies of SCP-6330 to fight 6852 instances and protect the children in these cases. The process is as follows. First, a child chooses the type of bear that they want, accessorizing it as they so desire. Then, an employee will stuff the bear with stuffing infused with Elan Vita Energy, or Eve. The employee will then give the child a fabric heart and instruct the child to tap and rub the heart, as well as telling the child to rub the heart on a part of their body to give the bear a gift. For example, rubbing the heart on one's head will ensure the bear will be the smartest bear alive. This completes the thaumaturgical ritual, and the bear will now activate when in the presence of a 6852 instance, or when not looked upon by a living entity. The creation of these artificial instances of 6330 has resulted in the termination of 6852 instances around 97% of the time. However, things have started to change. Good morning, Director. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me today. I have some news that I believe you need to hear. Go on then. You sounded distressed in your email, so I assumed it was quite important. Thank you. Well, I was going over the number of attacks by 6852 instances, and you told me to let you know of any changes in data. And as much as I hate to say it, well, you see… Relax, Dr. Had. What did you find? All right. Okay. It is estimated that within 10 years, 1 in 4 children attacked by 6852 will die, and Procedure 6852-Bear will be able to kill instances of 6852 only 7% of the time. How? Why the sudden jump? When did this happen? I thought the numbers were relatively stable. The instances of 6852 are becoming stronger, and fewer children have been coming to the workshops. Of course, many children have been saved by simply hiding under their covers, but our artificial 6330s are losing, a lot more than before. Damn it. All right, here is what we're going to do. We will do free giveaways, donations, and get more artificial 6330s out in the world for children. I'm sure we can spring for some cash for marketing as well. As for the increased number of dying children, what do you have in mind? I have an idea, but I'll get back to you on that later. For now, let's focus on the task at hand. Together, Dr. Had and Director Anand initiated a successful marketing and donation campaign to get more artificial 6330s out to more children. As the increasing number of 6852 instances became too much to handle, the artificial 6330s were given a secondary function. Director, we need to talk. I knew this would happen, but first, What the hell were you thinking? Having the stuffed bear to stand aside when it fails to kill the monster and let the child die under its hands? It's for the greater good. Once the monster vanishes, it will come out of hiding and obtain the child's Eve and put it into itself. That will make them stronger than before. We will then retrieve the bear and pass it on to the next child. But at what cost? We're talking about human lives here. Surely we can figure out a better way. But there is no better way. We are being inundated with anomalies and we are low on resources. It's not ideal, but 6852 cannot be contained, nor can it be prevented from manifesting. So for now, this is the best damn thing we have against something as unpredictable as this. I hate this. This isn't right. This isn't fair. They're just kids. Nothing is ever fair in this world, Dr. Had. Which is why we have to be fair. We are the Foundation, for goodness sake. We're supposed to protect humanity. We're supposed to be better than this. You're being idealistic, Doctor. The world is unfair and uncaring. Look at the bright side. This will work out in the long run, and you'll be thankful. Believe me. For now, I've had someone to come up with some solutions to cover up the children's deaths by anomalous means, so you don't have to worry about that. You are dismissed, Dr. Had. Have a nice weekend. You're making a mistake here, Director. You're placing all your bets on something that you don't understand. Like you said, these things are unpredictable. So what if the anomalies adapt and become stronger? What then? Do we sacrifice more lives and hope for the best? I'll find a way and make sure no more innocent lives will be lost. Shrouded in thick fog, the mech stood. It observed its surroundings with watchful eyes. Suddenly, multiple arachnid-like entities manifested in front of it. They stood on only two legs, brandishing the rest. The mech unsheathed its sword and dashed towards the nearest entity. With one swift motion, it slashed and cleaved the entity in half. Though split, the top half preserved and fought on as it attempted to jab at the mech. It was then quickly dispatched with a few more stabs of the sword. One of them latched onto the mech's shoulder, a fatal mistake that was quickly punished. The mech activated its shoulder-mounted railgun and blasted the entity into oblivion. Suddenly, the surroundings were plunged into darkness as the sun was blotted out by yet another entity. A massive serpent with verdant plumage descended upon the battlefield. The snake of the garden, descending from heaven, bearing the fruit of wisdom. The serpent's emerald eyes glowed white. It swung its tail and slammed down on the remaining entities, killing all but one. Now, kill the beast and seal our pact. And the mech struck down the last remaining entity with its blade without hesitation. Perseus, Mikasa, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Thaumiel Class Object SCP-5514. SCP-5514, also known as The Dragonslayer, is a massive humanoid mech constructed by the Foundation with assistance from the Global Occult Coalition. It is currently being utilized as part of the Defense Against Large-Scale Aggressors, or LSAs. There are some anomalous features that warrant its designation, one of which involves the usage of a pocket dimension that significantly lowers the mass and weight of 5514. As for its power source, SCP-037, a small star approximately 5 centimeters in diameter that contains the energy of a sun, has been implanted into its chest cavity. Along with a giant sword and a plasma-bladed hat, one of 5514's most anomalous weapons in its arsenal is the 1,000-word arrows. It involves 7 poets writing and reciting poems about the defeat and death of monsters, which in turn empowers 5514 with divine energy while demoralizing enemies at the same time. In 1998, LSA Wake 02 made its appearance near the Bay of Tokyo. Wake 02 rose from deep beneath the dark waters and let out a deafening cry that summoned lesser LSAs to join in its conquest against mankind. They advanced towards the city and laid waste to it. Coalition forces from the GOC and the Foundation went in to intercept the threat, but to no avail. Satellite footage showed images of the Bay City burning to the ground and towering monsters appearing in and out of the smog as massive hysteria broke out, a grim portrait of the cruel fate befalling humanity. Above the skies of Tokyo, just below orbit, Captain Perseus Rosales, a trained Foundation asset, piloted 5514, gearing it up for its first combat mission. As Dr. Mikasa Kaori gave the thumbs up, the formidable mech whirred as it came alive. Hydraulics checked. Heat sinks checked. Armaments checked. All systems ready to go. And so 5514 descended onto the Earth, like a meteor falling from the sky, and landed in the sea. The massive mech rose, unscathed from all the sparks and embers. 5514 detected Wake 02 almost immediately, as the entity was quick to launch its first strike on 5514. It lunged at 5514, but the mech evaded with ease. 5514 and Wake 02 then regained their composure and began studying each other. During that time, the city was in the process of evacuation. However, many residents stopped their attempts to flee and gazed upon the magnificent sight, the two titans at sea. Target locked, engaged. All right, you ugly bastard. Let's do this. 5514 prepared to rush forward. But instead of engaging the mech, Wake 02 let out a roar and quickly slithered its way towards the city. Oh, I won't let you get your way. 7 figures emerged from the midst of the evacuees and walked towards the bay. These were the poets of the 1,000-word arrows. Waves crashed upon the harbor as the poets stood steadfast, facing down a massive serpentine monster that was approaching ever closer. Then they began to recite, "Champion, champion, exalt in the glory of the Dragonslayer." Upon hearing the words being broadcast from 5514's pataphysical mantle, Wake 02 halted its movement towards the harbor. It instead let out a loud shriek, calling aid to its side. The LSAs rampaging in the city ruins heeded its call and converged towards the sea. Soon enough, 5514 was surrounded. 5514 leaped into the air, removing its rounded recoiling plasma and throwing it at a nearby LSA. It arced across multiple targets. Upon return, the entities fell, with their heads cleanly separated from their bodies. The surrounding waters turned crimson with the blood of the fallen monstrosities. The vicious beasts slain, gone to those which were once bane. 5514 then unsheathed the cold iron sword. It thrust down into another LSA and stabbed at its heart as it fell to the ground. 5514 pulled the sword out from its dead body and slashed the throat of yet another LSA approaching. "To your right!" Dr. Kaori shouted. The mech backed away from its position and activated its flight systems to remain in the air. Wake 02's second head then protruded from the mouth of its first head. It let out another shriek, and more LSAs rose from the seabed to answer its call. The second head shot towards 5514 with great velocity, just barely missing its foot. A lesser LSA scampered up the extended appendage and pounced on 5514. The mech managed to deflect the attack, then cut down the entity mid-air. Nice try. And now, my turn. 5514 launched into the air and activated its shoulder-mounted railgun, the Beowulf Seaguard rail. It took out the eyes of Wake 02's main head. It shrieked in pain and clumsily retracted its appendage. Seeing how Wake 02 was hurting, 5514 seized the moment by propelling forward and striking at the main head. 5514 descended upon Wake 02 before piercing its head. Then it flew over Wake 02 and drew its blade down the entity's serpentine body, dragging it all the way to its tail fin. The beast was split in half. Each half twitched and squirmed for a moment, but finally it lay dead. Dr. Kaori, LSA Wake 02 has been eliminated. 5514 stood tall as the riotous waves slowly died down. It turned to face the poets at the harbor. They nodded at each other, then puffed up their chests and recited the 1,000-word arrows once more. And the beast torn asunder. Exalt in the glory of the Dragonslayer." The people cheered as the words boomed loudly across the bay. It had given them hope of rebuilding and fighting back. However, the peace was short-lived. After the demise of Wake 02, LSA Brazil 01 was spotted off the coast of Greenland. 5514 was deployed to neutralize it. This time, Captain Rosales was accompanied by an ally, the Serpent. 5514 dropped from orbit as the Serpent emerged from the waters off the coastal tundra. A storm was already brewing to welcome them. With their backs against each other, they scanned the area vigilantly for any sudden attacks within the storm. "I see him, Quinn Crake, the one you called Brazil 01. Soon enough, the sky darkened. Storm clouds rolled in, and it began to rain. Brazil 01 burst through the waters, letting out a thunderous roar, and crashed onto the Serpent. They wrestled against one another. The Serpent coiled around Brazil 01, while Brazil 01 had its rear tentacles wrapped around the Serpent. Farther out on the coast, aiding the battle from a distance, were the 7 poets of the 1,000-word arrows. They could see the silhouettes of the massive entities engaging in fierce battle far out into the sea. Braving the storm, they watched the clash between titans and recited the words, "The awaited battlefield, the destined place for the beast to die. One final, just death." 5514 charged through the waters to assist the Serpent. It grabbed Brazil 01, tearing it away from its ally. The mech pulled the beast into the air and hurled it down with great force. However, it had no effect on Brazil 01, as it quickly rose and turned to face the duo. 5514 drew its sword, holding it against Brazil 01. "You all right there, Snakey?" The Serpent had been bitten multiple times and was bleeding heavily. It flapped its ruined plumage to shake off the blood. "These are deep wounds, but I will live." As 5514 activated its railgun, Brazil 01's mouth and cybernetic plating began to glow. It was charging an orb of blue energy inside its mouth. It turned into an energy beam and destroyed the railgun in the blink of an eye, staggering 5514 greatly. The beast then lunged across the battlefield, now faster than ever. The Serpent moved in front of 5514 to intercept the attack, but to no avail. Brazil 01 ran past the Serpent with ease and seized the 5514's sword. It swung the blade back at the mech, cutting off one of its legs and shattering the cold iron sword in the process. Next, it turned towards the wounded Serpent. Brazil 01 used its many tentacles to propel itself into the air. Using the power of gravity coupled with its sheer mass, it dropped down onto the Serpent. Forming multiple sharp points by grouping its tentacles together, Brazil 01 stabbed at the Serpent relentlessly as Captain Rosales watched on helplessly. "Damn it! Damn it! What can we do?" With 5514's system failing and the Serpent heavily wounded, Brazil 01 raised its head to the sky and breathed a torrent of flame in a display of dominance. But all hope was not lost. There was still one final weapon left undeployed. Undeterred by the dire state and devastation in front of them, the poets revealed 5514's trump card. "The greatest weapon you can offer is that of your own heart and the light of your soul." My own heart, light of my soul. That's it, soul, I got it now. 5514 struggled to prop itself up. Then the mech angled its chest towards Brazil 01, who was still roaring loudly. Powered by the energy that's equivalent to that of a sun, the emergency sun vent drained every last bit of the mech's power and shot out a burst of immense heat and energy, obliterating Brazil 01 and blinding the entire battlefield. As the battle was won and the storm has ceased, the Serpent slowly rose above the tumultuous waters. And so it's done. The beast is slain, sent to the great beyond. The Serpent rises, returned to from whence it came. Remember to check out my new animation channel, TheRubber Talks, where I share my life story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description to enter the Rubber's world. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Which SCP do you want to see in the next video and why it is interesting? Let us know in the comment below. We will draw your story and share it with the world. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell.
please share it to your friends if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!